It was 30 years ago that the doors of the ProRodeo Hall of Fame swung open. The promises of that year's opening ceremony have been fulfilled and new commitments made. This year, a new class is honored, and for the first time, an important new category is included. Rodeo committees have always been the backbone of our sport and have been crucial in the support that has allowed the ProRodeo Hall of Fame to flourish and expand. This year, for the first time, we induct 16 committees into the hall. And our 2008 class of inductees is as diverse as ever. From a contract specialty act that has always left audiences amazed, a steer roper who won championships after a serious injury, a team roper who made it to 15 Wrangler National Finals. There's a notable who competed and officiated, another who helped write the PRCA rulebook, a saddle bronc rider who's also been honored as ProRodeo's top mentor, an all-around who broke one of the early top earning records, a stock contractor whose legacy can still be seen at rodeos today, and a bucking horse who was voted the best at the very first national finals. And now, please welcome your host, Hall of Fame announcer, Hadley Barrett.
Well, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Obviously, it is a tremendous privilege for me to be here with you this morning and to share with the families, the friends, and the many, many fans our class of 2008. It is so nice that the dear Lord has blessed us with a beautiful morning. And I know in the busy time of America today that you have taken a lot of your own personal, family, and perhaps even business time to be here with us. And on behalf of all of our inductees, I say thank you from the bottom of our heart. This is a big, in fact, a giant, huge moment for every one of these people and the people that are close to them. So we hope that you enjoy the program and rejoice in the fact that we have some of the celebrities of rodeo with us this morning. I can tell you that, first of all, to be recognized by your peers in our game of rodeo is a very humbling experience, but an exciting time in the life of these people. So what do you say now? We meet the class of 2008. They are en route down the aisle now. And a welcome, of course, if you choose, as they come by, our class of 2008. Well, friends, as we have recognized previously, the Committee of the Year is a new addition to our hall, and it began last night as we reviewed some of that for you. Today, they have selected one individual from each of the committees to grace our stage and receive their bronze. 16 of them in all, and we begin by recognizing last night the fact that they all received all of the great accolades, and actually the ceremony, I understand, was beautiful. I'm extremely sorry and regret that I could not be here because there are many of my dear friends that are involved here. But as stated on the video, the committees are the backbone of what we're truly all about, and to have them be an official part of the ProRodeo Hall of Fame, we're extremely excited about that. And I have to tell you that if this first committee puts a smile on my face, it's because it is from my hometown of North Platte, Nebraska, the Buffalo Bill Rodeo Committee. And it is started in July 4th, 1882 as the Old Glory Blowout. So the committeeman's receiving the bronze. Next in line is California Rodeo Salinas. where the West comes alive. Boy, these are great rodeos. They are great rodeos. I know that this will be the final relaxed day for this following committee because they go into a very rigid time. The daddy of them all, Cheyenne Frontier Days. A very important stepping stone in our game of rodeo is our National Circuit Champions, and it all happens at the Dodge National Circuit Finals Rodeo, Pocatello, Idaho. Next, the Grand National Rodeo Horse and Stock Show, San Francisco, California. And the giant stock show and rodeo, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo.
Congratulations again, Bud.
Gary will never believe that I pronounced this. La Fiesta de los Vaqueros. It is the Tucson, Arizona Rodeo. Each year in January it happens. That is the National Western Stock Show and Rodeo, Denver, Colorado. It's in September in our greater Northwest, the famous Pendleton Roundup. Letterbuck. Never heard of the Letterbuck Room, have you? A few of you maybe. I see some smiles out there. Let's go a little closer to home. First staged in 1937, the Pikes Peak or Bust Rodeo right here in Colorado Springs. Next, the wildest, richest rodeo in the West, just completed about 3 weeks ago, Reno, Nevada. In February, we kickstart the year in grand style, and we do it at the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo. The world's original indoor rodeo, the Southwestern Exposition and Livestock Show, Fort Worth, Texas.
Congratulations again, Mr. Bob. Thank you so much.
First staged on July 4th, 1883, on the streets of Pecos, west of the Pecos Rodeo, Pecos, Texas.
Congratulations again. Thank you.
And the world's oldest rodeo, Prescott Frontier Days, Prescott, Arizona.
Congratulations again. Here we are.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as they receive their plaques today, they are, of course, recording this permanently for all of the committees to take back to the pride of their communities. One missing, and you may have noticed that was obvious, but the Calgary Stampede is currently in progress, and in fact, I think their finals is today. But earlier in the week, Keith Martin traveled to Calgary, and he, along with my colleague Bob Tallman, presented it, and we share it with you here.
You are now the first rodeo to ever be officially inducted. Calgary Stampede, be blessed. This is awesome. The plaque that Mr. Martin has just given to Mike Whittle, the bronze to our president, Mr. George Brookman. The plaque reads as this: the greatest outdoor show on earth. The Calgary Stampede was first staged September 19.
All right, collectively, how about it for our 16 committees, the brand new category in the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. Congratulations to each and every one of you. My goodness, what a great addition to our hall.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mr. Haskell. Thank you, guys. Very much. Thank you. Good, sir. See you, sir. Butch. Good. Thank y'all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Duane. Thanks for being here.
As the committee representatives leave the stage this morning, it is my pleasure to bring to the microphone for a special welcome to all of our guests here today. Not only a dear personal friend, but a man that I admire greatly for the many, many plateaus that he has introduced to all of us in professional rodeo. And his dedication to our game and the business of our Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association may be unequaled, as I tell you that our chairman of the board, by his own volunteer submission, is here this morning. My dear friend, Mr. Keith Martin. Welcome him, please.
Thank you, Hadley, and thank you, everybody. What a wonderful day to be alive, isn't it? It's a beautiful day, and there are a lot of people here that are being honored and are very excited, and thank all of you for coming. I would appreciate it if you would indulge me for a minute and let me introduce some very important people that give so freely of their time and are dedicated to our sport. First, I would like to ask the Hall of Fame, ProRodeo Hall of Fame Board of Trustees to please stand and be recognized. Thank you all. Secondly, I'd like to ask all of the PRCA Board of Directors that are here today, please stand and be recognized. There we are. Thirdly, and we couldn't do this sport without them, I'd appreciate it if all of our sponsors that are here today would please stand and be recognized. Thank you all. You make our lives easier. Also, I'd like to ask all of the past inductees into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame to please stand and be recognized. Wow, great. What a great group. Again, thank you. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of the ceremonies, and I'll turn it back over to my dear friend, Mr. Hadley Barrett.
Thank you very much, Keith. Appreciate you being on hand today. Well, friends, as we prepare to induct our very first recipient today, I would tell you in a pre-introduction, if I may use that term, as we will detail it on video for you today, and I think we have a nice presentation of each and every one of them. But I can tell you that to be successful in more than one event in modern-day world of event specialists that we see in rodeo is a very difficult task, and a lot of credit goes to those who can do that. That mold doesn't fit everyone, but that mold does fit Paul Tierney, I can tell you that. Unbeknownst to many of you, he was also a good saddle bronc rider as well as a timed event cowboy. And I watched him from the time that he was very young, right in my hometown of North Platte, Nebraska, as he trained endlessly. He did that at Clark and Dorothy Brown's arena and school. He roped good calves. He roped big calves. He roped and bulldogged bad steers, good steers. He rode young horses. He fed them. He cleaned stalls. And he did all of the above. And he became one of the greatest all-around cowboys, and his record kind of tells the story. I will tell you something kind of an inside story. In the early days of television, in a production meeting before the rodeo began, invariably, our director would say to one of we interviewers, "Hey, find Paul Tierney if you can. He's a good interview." And you know what? We did. Our all-around inductee 2008, Paul Tierney.
And now we go to the Rapid City, South Dakota Flash, Paul Tierney.
Many little boys dream and pretend to be champion cowboys. Some even try a few tricks. But few go on to be the real all-around cowboy like Paul Tierney.
This man has won over $58,000 in calf roping this year, has made a lot of fans because he has that attitude. He's proud of his sport, and the sport is proud of him. Gets the calf on the ground. This is very important.
Paul worked his way from the amateur ranks through college and into professional rodeo. He even competed in 6 events while studying for his degree and picked up 10 regional titles. His pro career included 9 NFR tie-down qualifications and 5 in steer wrestling. Paul was the world tie-down roping champion in 1979. It was 1980 when Paul Tierney ended Tom Ferguson's 6-year all-around reign. That year, he was 4th in the steer wrestling and 2nd in tie-down.
Look at here. This is Paul Tierney, the man with the number 1 on his back from Rapid City, South Dakota.
Feels real good, and I've had a real successful year, and I'm just happy to be in this spot right now.
I bet you're happy. What are you going to do in 1981 to come back and try them again?
I'm going to try to come back and do it again, and with the money like it is, we're starting to make a good living here cowboying.
Paul Tierney's legacy lives on. To this day, Cowboys look with envy at his record of 7 times among the top 10 all-around Cowboys. It is with those impressive numbers in mind that we welcome Paul Tierney into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Well, it's a great honor here today to be in this class. It's a great honor to be inducted with such a fine bunch of people, people that went before me, people that come after me. And, when you're in the process of this whole thing, we always think it's I. When you get through this process, I think it turns into we, and it turns into others. And I just want to briefly talk about, what that team that really God put in place. And you didn't even know it. It was something that was happening. When I have a school, I always try to tell kids, you need to carve out some time. And I always say, when I was raised on the ranch here in Broken Bow, I only had to work for my dad a half a day. And that was at 7 in the morning till 7 at night. And he said I could always do anything before 7, and I could do anything after 7 that I wanted. And so I just had to work a half a day when I was growing up, and I don't know what your time element is nowadays, but my time element was that. And I always tell kids I never roped a calf straight up when the sun was straight up above me till I got to college and didn't have my dad to tell me when I could go rope. I had a brother that pushed a lot of calves, stayed in the hay field, and we got to practice. Then later on, as Hadley said, I was very fortunate to be able to go and work for a guy over in North Platte, Nebraska, that I had a horse deal going with him, and I owed him $300. And I said, I don't have $300, but I'd like to come to work for you. He said, that'll be fine, Paul. Come work for me and stay out your winter quarter in school. So I went to work for him. And I was a young 19-year-old hotshot, tied calves fast, but I couldn't tie very many of them fast. And he said, this is what we're going to do, Paul. He said, we're going to go to the practice pen every day, and he said, we're going to rope about 24 calves. We're going to match on those calves. We're going to hang a barrier up, get the stopwatch out, and I'm going to teach you about winning. Well, this guy was an old fart. He was about 37. And so I thought, well, shoot, I was working for $10 a day in my room and board. And I thought, I could make me another $5 or $6 going out there and matching him in the practice pen. So I went out in the practice pen, and he said, Paul, pick out your horses. He had 12 or 13 head of horses. I'd pick out my horses. He said, now pick out your calves. I'd pick out my calves. And he'd say, just put the next 4 calves in for me. And you know what? That's the way it went. I picked the horses. I picked my calves. I went to the, I left this part out. We matched for 50 cents in the average and a dime in the go-rounds. Well, I went to the house that first night. I owed him $6.50. So this went on. I thought that was lucky. And I went on the next day. I owed him $6.40. I kept whittling it down, $6.30, $6.20, but it didn't get much below $6. Well, I figured $10 a day, it's going to take a little while. I owed him $300 on this horse trade. So I thought this is going to take a little while to work this off, so I got to have to start thinking about this a little bit more. And so occasionally he would break a rope, and he'd say, okay, Paul, you can win the average today in that go-round. So I'd start making me about 60 cents. And anyway, this is what I think led to be where I'm at today, is that time in my life for 3 months, he just whittled on me, and it was, what is it, the Patriots, humble pie? That was my humble pie. This man had something that I needed, and I pledged myself I had learned what he had, and that I wouldn't get my card till I could master him. It took me 3 years to master him, and then I got my card, and the rest was history. So I owe a great, much of gratitude to Clark and Dorothy Brown at North Platte, Nebraska because of those 3 months. I'd occasionally get to go back in there on Thursday afternoons to pick up a horse to go rodeoing on the weekend, trained horses, and so we'd have our match session that time before we went to, and it, like I said, it only took me 3 years, but I did master him. I don't think he ever owed me $6, but he owed me some. You know, and that team, as I'm talking about, when I started rodeo and I got to be very acquainted with Dave Brock. He was a man of like-mindedness. We wanted to go to the finals. We teamed up together. We traveled together. We entered, and that was a guy that had a, you know, there again, I didn't realize that was happening, but it was a team. It really wasn't all about Paul. It was about a team. Later on, then I was sitting on the chutes in the Superstars match, and two guys that I just had the most respect for started to believe in me that I could win the world. And I didn't see myself as a world champion cowboy, but it says, there's a saying that says, once someone else believes in you, then you can start doing above and beyond what you expect. Well, this first guy was Jack Hannum. And he told me, he says, you know, Paul, you have the ability to win the world. I said, really? I thought about the NFR, but I didn't think about the world. And then later on that year, I was roping a bale with Dean Oliver in Dillon, Montana. And Dean Oliver says, you know, Paul, he didn't say it quite like that. You know, Paul? If you know Dean, he talks to that little bit of that whoop. And anyway, he said, you have the ability to win the world. And you know, at that point, I started believing myself, and that next year I won the world. So when others will start believing in you and what we deposit in other kids and other people, they will then start believing in themselves and do expectantly more than what they see themselves doing. So we always got to be very cautious of how we speak of that. But I think it was really because of those two guys that I really seen myself going above where I seen myself. And the last thing I want to say is today I have a great team. I am a team of Andy Taylor from Trinity Fellowship down in Sayre, Oklahoma. Neat thing about Andy's church is he's on the Walter Merrick training facility. It's just a cool place. We go down there once a year and help put on a camp. I have another team member out in Filer, Idaho, Lynn Shaw. He puts on a cowboy camp, a rodeo Bible camp. My wife and myself go out there for 3-4 days and do a camp with them. This is my team today, along with my family, my son Jess, Paul David, Amy. It's a good team. It's a great team. Thank you.
Oh, man. How about it? Paul, come right back up. We have a bronze for you. May I also ask you to welcome our own Miss Rodeo America, Amy Wilson, of her home state of Kansas, is here to assist in our presentations. And I wonder how old 37 feels to Paul now. Is it, huh?
I left out one team member, Jordan.
There you go. You got it.
37, it's young.
37's young. He said, yeah, you're right about that. All right. Tell you what, we announcers do work with scripts. You can see this, and I'm getting rid of one, okay? Amy, will you take this for me, please? Thank you very much. Right now, as I talk about this young man, I can't tell you in words the excitement that Bobby Hurley brought to the team roping event every time he backed in the box. You know, his practice habits, his selection of team roping partners, his ability to find good horses and train them, those were something that were the envy of a lot of people. But you know, his smile and his communication with the fans was absolutely fantastic. And when I read, and it probably wouldn't be in the same words, while we announcers strive for words and ways to explain things, I read a response when Bobby learned of his induction that really took me back, and I thought it was great. So with tongue in cheek, I tell you that he said his life was just kind of like a story. He said, like my Wrangler NFR appearances, they were sentences in the story. My world championships, they were paragraphs. My induction to the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame is the period. And it brings a happy ending to a great story. Bobby Hurley, Class 2008.
Bobby Hurley at the head end. Alan Bach, the world champion at the heels. Yes, they're going to triumph.
It was an amazing run that started in 1993.
Third in the world, 71.
Bobby Hurley's 4-year partnership with Alan Bach produced 2 World Championship gold buckets. In that first victory year, the pair won the final 5 rounds at the National Finals Rodeo.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's what they needed. That is a world champion team over.
In 1995, they won 3 of the first 6 rounds.
5 flat, you betcha, look at that 2 swings. Alan to the heels, come on, let's go. Whoa, whoa.
Bobby made 12 consecutive appearances at the NFR as a header, 15 in total. He won or shared first place in 21 rounds at the finals during his career. He twice finished second in the average. He did it with Dennis Gates in 1992 and Cody Cowden in 1996. There was always lots to talk about when Bobby was in the thick of competition. 2 of Bobby Hurley's horses were named PRCA AQHA Heading Horse of the Year. In 1990, it was Yellow Bar Smug, and in 94, it was Trey Spiffy Duke. Bobby Hurley went well over the $1 million mark in earnings during his career and retired with an impressive list in the PRCA record book. We welcome Bobby Hurley into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Well, this is very overwhelming. First of all, you know this doesn't happen by yourself. To show you what a rodeo family is, if I could, I'd like all the people who came here with me to stand up. All 50 of you. Now that's a team. I mean, we've got people here from 75 years old to 7 years old, traveled from Arkansas, from Florida to California, and that's what rodeo's about. It's meeting people over the years, over a 20-year span, and it's amazing the people that you do meet out here rodeoing. And that's what I enjoyed most, about rodeo. And I think that's what, when I started out, there's no way I thought I'd have had a 20-year career rodeoing. I would have thought, as much as I hated traveling, I would have thought 2-3 years would have been the max for me. Then over the years, you get to meeting people and making friends, and you just can't hardly push that aside. You think your rodeo career's over, when you're rodeoing and you retire, but actually it's when a lot of it begins. Like right now, if I hadn't, entered the Cow Palace in San Francisco, I wouldn't have met my wife. It's pretty odd that a kid from Arkansas goes to California and meets his wife. She got 4 beautiful children. Would you girls stand up, please? Stand up for me. I'm very proud of them. They're all, and my wife said when we left home the other day, it felt really odd. We're going somewhere without a horse or a baseball bat. It felt really weird. But anyway, a lot of the, like I keep saying, going back to a lot of the people that we meet, it's not just your family that rodeos, it's the rodeo family in itself. everybody, you know, it's one big family that you don't, you know, from committee people to the contestants. You know, you can be broke down on Interstate 10 during rush hour in Houston, Texas, and on the side of the highway, somebody will pull over in a cowboy hat, ask you if you need some help, you know, and say, yeah, my handyman jack's broke. I can't get my trailer up to fix a flat. You know, he might pick up the phone and say, you know, I'm a contractor. We're building this 60-story skyscraper over here. If, you know, he'd call up his buddy, say, hey, bring that crane over here. We got to lift this trailer for these guys. You know, and that's just the way rodeo people do for rodeo people. And that's what I miss the most about rodeoing is not being around that all the people that you used to be around. But this is the most, you know, the world championships, when you start out, you know, you're a little kid and you don't really, all you think about is winning world championships or making the national finals rodeo. You never really think about being inducted into the Hall of Fame because it is so far-fetched, you know. So, but I want you to know this is probably the biggest honor of my life, to walk through that room in there and see all the people on these plaques. You know, you walk by this, you know, that guy was good. That guy right there, he was real good. You know, boy, that guy there was real good. And then you come across your picture. You're like, wow. You know, that guy wasn't very good. How'd he get in? But, you know, but you don't really put yourself in that category with all the greats. But it is an unbelievable honor for me to be inducted, especially with this class, with all the rest of the guys that's in there. You know, it makes all those thousands and thousands of roping steers, practice steers, all the thousands and thousands of highway miles, all the thousands and thousands of phone calls. It makes all that worth it. I just thank you guys for being here.
Well, there it is, folks. That is the period at the end of the page for Bobby Hurley. Congratulations, Bobby. Ladies and gentlemen, I would just like to make a point this morning. Shaun Burchett is not included in the Legends of Great Steer Ropers because he is the late Shaun Burchett, but rather because he was the great Shaun Burchett. I'd like to make that point this morning. He's a great, great steer roper. You know, his drive, his commitment to roping steers was almost unequaled. He was inspired by, I'm sure, many of his heroes that he was around, including his father, Randy. And he learned at an early age that the practice pen was not just a place to have fun, but a place to hone your skills. And hone them he did. His untimely death in an auto accident at age 28 cut short one of the most brilliant careers in steer roping history. He blessed us with his presence. He blesses us with his memory today. And we are proud to present Shaun Burchett in the class of 2008.
The little lefty that was taught to rope the right way by his father and became one of the most talented ropers in the sport's history. Shaun Burchett was the Pro Rodeo Rookie of the Year at the tender age of 17 in 1981 and was at the National Final steer roping 2 years later. Shaun took the reserve title in 1985 and 1986. In 1987, he won his first world championship.
Let off the steam whistle, 12 flat. Our world champion, ladies and gentlemen, from Briar Creek, Oklahoma, Shaun Burchett, with his pretty wife and a very pleased and happy dad.
And again took the title the following year. Both times, he was able to best the notable Hall of Famer Jim Davis. The amazing steer roper broke the NFSR record with a 9.8-second run in 1990 and was the first roper ever to post a time under 9 seconds. He did it twice in 1987 when he set the world record with a time of 8.5 seconds in Fredonia, Kansas. Shaun Burchett appeared in 9 consecutive NFSRs. He even made it to the finals for the last 3 years after losing his spleen and suffering kidney damage after his car collided with a train. For his athletic ability and many championship years, Shaun Burchett, world record holder and ultimate steer roper, is inducted into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shaun's father, Randy, is here to accept.
On behalf of Shaun's family, I'd like to show the pre-RCA and the Hall of Fame that we really appreciate them being nominated for this, and it's a great honor for any parent to ever have happen. Shaun was a different boy. He wasn't set out to be a roper. Shaun was left-handed. He had a lot of things going wrong, but I told him if he was going to rope steer, he was going to have to rope right-handed. So at the age of about 6 or 7, he started changing to rope right-handed. And he's been a winner all of his life. At Cheyenne, the kids would rope the dummy, and he couldn't beat them right-handed. So he made him a little deal. He said, well, we'll rope you 5 right, 5 left. So he knew he could smoke him with that left hand, and if he could catch one with that right hand, he's going to beat him. But he tried to practice. He practiced hard. He devoted his life to it, and I tried to surround him with champions. I told him, you're going to rope like a champion. You're going to have to rope with them. You're going to have to beat a champion. And he took it to heart, and he practiced and practiced and practiced until he got him a little deal, figured out that nobody's followed yet. He's one of a kind, very, very quick, good hands. I've seen him tie calves to the fence and practice tying calves till his hands would bleed, come to the house, wash his hands and go back and tie some more. But Sonny Davis, old and young, Schultz Webster used to stay there at the house all the time. They taught him how to win. Sonny taught him, if you win every go around there, but you take care of yourself. Olin tried to slow him down. I tried to slow him down. But Schultz Webster probably did more with him than anybody. Kind of refined him and tuned him and kept him in line. But he had a good career, fast career. Boy, everything he did was fast. He eat fast, he rode fast, drove fast. But he went to college at Hobbs, New Mexico, met Lorraine Higgins. They got married and gave me a beautiful granddaughter. And it's getting tough. I'm proud of her. She's got a lot of her daddy in her. She's got a lot of try. And old Mel Potter helped Shaun a bunch. He probably won some championships flying in Mel's airplane. But Mel didn't like to mount him very well. He said Mel would be pulling and Shaun be a whooping. So I'm sure Mel was glad when he brought his own horse. But it's been a great life. It's just too short a life for me. But anyway, maybe my granddaughter can carry on the name. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Congratulations to Shaun. When John Macbeth discovered that he could not be here for Tom Reeves' induction, he was devastated, but prior commitments prevented him from being. And he had a big impact on Tommy, and Tommy'd be the first to tell you that. So John called me and asked if I could kind of reflect to this audience this morning some of the things and maybe you didn't know about Tom Reeves, and John Macbeth, and some of the people important in his life. John also cautioned me real early in our conversation a couple of days ago. He said, remember, Hadley, this is not about John Macbeth. It's about Tom Reeves. Well, we all know that. We also know that John Macbeth was a great saddle bronc instructor. And he would tell you quickly that Tom was one of his star students. But also, as he continued to progress, his late father, Dean, and his mother, Emmylou, were a little concerned about whether he would have the chances on the ranch up in South Dakota that maybe he would need to further his abilities in bronc riding, because it appeared that he had a great career, and they called John Macbeth and expressed that to him. John said, why don't you send him down here? So they did. John and his wife brought Tom into their home. He lived with them, went to high school in Burden, Kansas, graduated from high school in Burden, Kansas. He went on, and John may have had something to do with this, other friends may have. He received a scholarship to Panhandle State, and then from that point on, still at a very young age, he had a brilliant bronc riding career that bloomed out of that whole thing. And you know, in talking to Tom earlier today, we were talking about so many people that he would want to thank, and I know that's in the hearts of every recipient here. But you run the high risk when you do that of begin naming names, and you invariably leave someone out. But I know that John and his wife, Tommy's parents, were two very important people that we do not leave out. And I can tell you also, because I was right on hand when it happened, the night that he won the world championship, it was so emotional for so many people, including Tommy. But I have never seen the world of rodeo rejoice any more over an individual championship than they did for Tom Reeves. I guess it had been just a long time coming. He had won the average. He had been there, 16, 17, 18 times. And we all knew that he rode as well as anybody in the world. I will tell you in advance, before Tom comes up here, he won't give you a long speech, but he has the good feeling of everyone here and everyone in the world of rodeo in his heart. He probably rides broncs better than he speaks, so he may just tell you thank you. But I'm going to take you to the big screen right now because we proudly introduce Tom Reeves to the class of 2008.
Tommy Reeves.
There's a young man that was the high school champ on the Bucking Horse of the Year. Look at him go to the front end. Watch his feet. It's like diving. The judges watch their feet, toes out.
He was a fixture at the first 18 National Finals rodeos held in Las Vegas. Saddle bronc rider Tom Reeves was part of the excitement that made the event what it has become today.
Boy, he's been Mr. Consistency in his career. 15 trips to the national finals, more than $1 million.
In 2001, at 37, he took home the World Championship.
This is a crank to ride. Watch old Solly. Go on, Tom. You do it. Just get to the whistle.
That's all we wanted.
That particular ride is so important. Absolutely important.
Today he steps on the stage, your world champion bronc rider, Tom Reeves.
Tom got an early start in high school rodeo with 2 national championships. He was only 14 when he first entered a rodeo. He had his PRCA card by the time he was 17. Tom made it to the NFR by the time he was 21. He finished among the top 10 in the world standings 12 times, and 6 times was among the top 4. Tom Reeves retired from the competitive ranks in 2005 with career earnings of $1,746,000 and moved to a new rodeo career, stock contracting, and college coaching. He coached Ranger College to the College National Finals Rodeo men's title in 2007. This after bringing the Ranger program back to life after a 23-year hiatus. In 2008, Tom Reeves was awarded the second annual Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame Mentoring Award. The award is dedicated to leadership in serving youth as a mentor. We welcome Tom Reeves into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Those of you that know me know I'm terrible. Callie Wardell said I'm gonna get up there and cry like a little girl. It's really an honor. Son of a gun. Didn't write a speech. Was gonna have a friend come up here and speak for me. Ditto everything them guys said. You know, it's an honor to be mentioned with these guys. I'd have sold out for one trip to the finals. Thank you. Thank you, my wife Carmen, and my wonderful family. She helped me win the world. She's probably the biggest cause. Thank you.
Tommy,
You're not doing it.
Didn't he do great? See there? Tommy, you're the real deal. Congratulations.
Thanks. Them boys sure made me look good at the college finals, too. They're a great bunch of kids.
There you go. He gives credit to everybody but himself, doesn't he? When we speak about this next man, I guess I would simply say just being who he was kind of depicts what I think all of us would like to be remembered for. And that is fairness, being considerate, being professional, sensitive to other people's feelings, and above all, strong enough to carry that out in your own character. You know, that pretty well describes Buddy Lytle. Now, Buddy was an awfully good roper and steer wrestler when I first met him, and he went on, as we all know, to be one of the pro official pioneers, and we attribute much of the success of that program to the leadership that he gave us. On a personal basis, he was a dear friend of mine, and Buddy always had a smile. And I can tell you honestly, I have not ever heard in my life a bad remark about Buddy Lytle. He had to make some very serious calls in his life because he flagged important events, the NFR, the National Steer Roping Finals, and big contests all over our country. He made every call with the best judgment that he possessed in his heart. That we will always know about Buddy Lytle. Today, we include him in the class of 2008 in the Lifetime Achievement, Buddy Lytle.
He was well-liked and most of all respected. That's a lot to say about a pro sports official. Ronald Buddy Lytle was the ultimate pro rodeo official. He helped develop the PRCA's judging handbook. Buddy became a judge after a career as a tie-down roper and steer wrestler. He worked 24 national finals rodeos as an official. He also worked as a judge in big-name places like Cheyenne, Houston, and Fort Worth. Buddy Lytle's contribution later in life included being a field representative, where he trained new judges and worked with the current judging staff to make them better. Many recall Buddy Lytle battling leukemia for over 8 years, and how he kept judging and, even while hospitalized, took the time to analyze rodeo video and judging statistics. For his lifetime of achievement truly caring about the sport of rodeo, we welcome Buddy Lytle into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
And ladies and gentlemen, coming to the podium is the late Buddy Lytle's wife, Sue.
I feel bad. I'm the one that wrote the speech, and they're all getting up here giving it, but I'm a lot younger than them, and they can remember more than I can, and the altitude's got my head messed up here. So if you'll bear with me through this is tough. It's a tough day for for a lot of us. Thank you, and it's an honor to be able to be here and be on stage with such a great group of inductees. He would have been so modest about receiving this distinguished award, but yet I know in his heart he would have been pleased just to have been nominated. Now he's been inducted into an institution with some of the greatest cowboys that ever stepped in an arena, and a lot of you are here. When I said in the interview that we ate, slept, and drank rodeo and judging, I mean it. Every word out of his mouth was be rodeo this, rodeo that. And I'd be trying to get ready for work in the morning. Where are you? I'm in the bathroom. What do you want? Well, I was going to tell you about this. And I said, oh, God, I'm trying to get out the door to go to work. I'm going to be late for work. Makes me mad. Okay, come home from work. We're still on the same subject. Go to bed. We're talking about it. But lo and behold, the more red beers he had, the better it got. Love those red beers. He loved what he did, and he loved to help the cowboys and the judges understand the whys and the why nots. And then he was satisfied and he never asked for anything in return. He just wanted you to do the best you could do. A lot of judges I've worked with since Buddy passed away have told me how much they enjoyed being in his seminars, and that they could relate to him because he talked to them simple, down to earth, where they could understand it. That meant a lot to me because we really had a hard time convincing him that he needed to be in there teaching it. He said, I can't talk. I can't get up in front of the public. He couldn't say public. It was P-L-U-B-L-I-C. Well, I give up on that. And I said, just play like there's a bunch of me out there and talk to them like you talk to me. And I thought, no, don't do that. Just play like there's a bunch of me out there. And after the first one, I think he really got through it okay. And the compliments he had from the judges and then, the upcoming judges, new ones and everything, I think it gave him a lot of enthusiasm and self-esteem to go on and teach. On a personal note, I'd like to express my thanks to Jack Hannum and Pat Lovett for being there for us the 160 days we were in the hospital. Pat checked on us every day, and did we need anything? Jack was right behind her, calling and checking on us. He got to come up several times and visit, and gosh, I'd given anything to be a fly on the wall. They judged rodeos and judged rodeos. But they both enjoyed this time they had together, and I'm so glad they were able to visit. Thank you, Pat and Jack. I'm sorry Jack couldn't be here. I love you both, and your friendship will be cherished forever. And Steve Knowles, for nominating him and for your friendship to Buddy and I. I've picked on Steve over the years. I can't tell you what I call him. I think they would bleep that out. And Buddy'd get on to me, quit calling him that. Quit talking to him like that. And leave him alone. Cut him some slack. Steve, it isn't gonna happen, baby. You love it. And thank you, my friend. And to all the judges, there aren't enough words to describe what y'all meant to Buddy and to me. I can pick up the phone anytime and call any of you, and you'd be there for me. I love all of you. I'd like to read a piece that I got at the funeral home of a picture they gave me, and we could pick out a little scripture or verse to go under it, and I just said, oh, that's okay. And the Lord said, are you sure you want to read some and see? And I guess the good Lord just turned my hand over to the next page, and I don't know. I don't guess I could have picked anything that described him any better. And I'd like to read it with you. It's loving and kind in all his ways, upright and just to the end of his days, sincere and true in his heart and mind, a beautiful memory he left behind. He had a nature you could not help but loving, a heart that was purer than gold. And to those who knew him and loved him, Buddy's memory will never grow old. And I hope it does, and I hope y'all remember him forever. And before I close, I'd like to recognize a group of ladies that have come into my life in the last 5 years We're 50 strong across the United States and Canada, and some of them are here today. And I'd like to ask them to stand and for you to give them a hand. We are hands helping a needy diva, I'm getting dry, a needy diva survive. And they are here helping this needy diva today. Would y'all stand and please give them a hand? Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I'd like to take a second before I close and ask you to close your eyes and picture the most perfect rodeo you could ever imagine. I see cowboys with no injuries, stock that performs the best every time, no broken barriers, no missed calves and steers, no markouts, and the best stock contractors, secretaries, cowboys, and judges and announcers. Now the arena gates have opened up and taken one from us and asked him, my friend and pal, to come announce the next rodeo in heaven. Isn't that a beautiful rodeo? We'll all be there one day. Okay, buddy, I'm gonna quit. He's gonna flag me out. Or else he's gonna go to snoring and y'all can't hear nothing. But I want to tell you how much he loved rodeo and judging, and most of all, how much he loved all of y'all. And this is what he'd have said if he'd have been up here and you stuck this microphone in his face. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Well done. So our congratulations to Buddy Lytle. Thank you again, Sue. You know, when you take a close look at the life of Duane Howard, you'll find that from the time he was a little boy, all he ever wanted to be was a cowboy. He worked hard at it, and he became a great one. We know also that his competition career was cut short pretty early. It happened in the 60s when he was seriously injured by being bucked off of a bareback horse. But he remained in our game in many, many capacities, and while accomplishments in rodeo are very difficult to achieve, and every one of these champions will tell you that, I think that having the respect of those around you may be the most difficult. In that regard, Duane was definitely a champion. And I think that the category of noble is easiest described today by simply saying to you, here is Duane Howard, class of 2008.
Chute number 4, Duane Howard, who stands
Few men have seen so much in the ranks of professional rodeo and been involved in so many areas. Duane Howard is notable because he did and saw it all.
This is the moment. Duane Howard.
He competed on the big stage of pro rodeo. Duane qualified in saddle bronc riding and bull riding at the first National Finals Rodeo in 1959 and 1960. Earlier, he competed in all 3 rough stock events, finishing as reserve world champion in bull riding in 1955, 57, and 1960. He had the honor of being reserve all around to the famed Jim Shoulders in 1957. Duane Howard went on to help pro rodeo in many other important ways. He served on the PRCA Board of Directors. He was a pickup man and was one of the first PRCA professional judges. He dedicated himself to working as a judge at the finals 11 times. He was in the first class inducted into his home state of North Dakota's Cowboy Hall of Fame in 1998. Duane Howard spent his life competing and working to make the sport of rodeo more professional. We welcome him as a notable into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
All
I got to get my notes out, I guess. I don't have my glasses on. Maybe I can't read them anyway, but it's quite an honor to be up here. I never thought I could be here. But it's something that I never thought I could be in rodeo as much as I always wanted to be, and to be with guys like all you right here now. But to be included in this is happening today is an honor that I'll never forget. I was born and raised on the western edge of the Fort Totten Indian Reservation in north central North Dakota on a farm and ranch where my grandparents and my parents raised cattle, sheep, and horses. And horses was the main thing. And I was exposed to a lot of animals at an early age. I always wanted to be a cowboy. As a young boy, I would look through the saddle catalog, see different pictures of rodeo action. I guess I was really hooked. Had Indian rodeos every 4th of July, and I'd see these cowboys riding and roping, and just couldn't get enough of watching all this. My granddad hauled me and some cousins around some mountain money rodeos so we could get on some bareback horses, steers, and cows. Now, my first view of a RCA rodeo was in Mandan. Kramer had the stock in 1952. I was so excited and afraid I was going to miss something that I entered, and I just couldn't get over it. Well, anyway, I got these 2 horses rode, but then not so good. I missed one out and blowed a stirrup on the other one. But I thought, they aren't too tough. But I thought, well, I guess maybe as long as I didn't get my back of my shirt dirty, I didn't think that was too tough. Well, then after that, I went to enter the amateur bronc riding in Cheyenne. And to see those big name cowboys was really a thrill. I saw Casey Tibbs, Jim Shoulders, Deb Copenhaver, and the Lindermans, and I nearly ran myself to death trying to see everything. Well, I didn't do so great there, but I did win 3rd in the average. And I do remember this is way back when Bill Hancock won the bronc riding there. And he rode a horse of Vern Elliott's called Prisoner of War. I remember that distinctly. Then the good things was over. I had to get back home. It took me 4 days to hitchhike home, but I finally made it. I got my first RCA card in 1953. My mom and dad took me to my first rodeo in Medora. Harley Roth of the Oxbow Ranch in Sturgis had the stock. Now the bulls were real rank, and nobody rode one, so we got some ground money. I won 4th in the bronc ride, and the rest is history. I've had my ups and downs in rodeo, but I wouldn't trade them for anything. I've made so many friends, and I'm not going to try and name them for fear I'd miss one. And so much help and information along the way to help me in my endeavor. I appreciate the honors I've received, the calls and letters from so many friends. I would like to thank all of you for coming to this induction today. And mostly I want to thank my wife of 51 years, Orpha, and my 2 daughters, Luana, Annie, and Marina, and my two grandchildren, Mitchell and Leah. See, you can see I'm getting a little forgetful. Of course, when you're going to be 75 years old, very many people remember what you tried to do or what you saw. But anyway, God bless you all, and thank you so very much. It's been a blessing.
Congratulations once again to Duane Howard. Thank you, Duane. You know, folks, it's been said time and again that stock contractors are the backbone of the rodeo industry. And we all know that's pretty what makes us tick today. Feek Tooke and his family pioneered what has become the strength of the bucking horse world, breeding and raising horses from the ground up. Feek Tooke didn't raise bucking horses for his own glory. He did it for the love of good horses. And he produced a bunch of champions. What he started lives on today with the Tooke bloodline still performing like champions in the arenas of pro rodeo decades later. I know that the destiny of some of those great bucking horses are in the hands of a lot of you people in the audience today. Matter of fact, on our ranch in Nebraska, we have one of the old retired Tooke horses, and he will live there happily for the rest of his days. That family was always very particular about where those horses would end up, and that is the sensitivity that we address today as we recognize stock contractor Feek Tooke in the class of 2008.
Not everyone who'll draw this horse will get to that whistle. Watch here.
Rodeo stock contractors since the 1930s can trace their stock to those developed by Feek Tooke. His family's Montana ranch started raising horses and had a breeding program that produced more than 6,000 horses. They were passed along to every top stock contractor in North America. Feek Tooke pioneered a bucking horse breeding program that matched registered sire stallions with crossbred mares. It was founded on the bloodlines from Prince, Timberline, Gray World, Snowflake, and General Custer.
He's the bucking horse of the year for 87.
I mean, to tell you what, everybody ought to have a Saturday night like this. Woo!
Since 1987, most of the National Finals Rodeo champion broncs and PRCA Bucking Horse of the Year award winners have lines to the Tooke's program. Feek Tooke is credited with making rodeo stock what it is today. It's often said that he kept alive the tradition of great bucking horses, horses that are the backbone of rodeos in the United States and Canada today. We welcome into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame Chandler Earl Feek Tooke, the stock contractor who set a standard we continue to emulate today.
Accepting son Toby.
Thank you, Hadley. Well, it's hard to talk about someone that you never actually got to meet. So, I've got the buckle, I've got his hat on. It means a lot. Ken, one of his sons, is over there. His daughter's Sharon out there. My grandpa wrote that December 8th, 1968, when he wrote in and grabbed that plaque from Clem McSpadden. That was the greatest night of his life. But I'm going to think this is going to one-up it because it wasn't about him, it was about the horses that he's passed on. Even talking to Tom, he's got some of our horses, you know, bunch of great contractors keeping our bloodlines alive. I thank you, and I'm going to be taking this belt buckle and trophy back to Feek's wife back in Ekalaka so she can have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Toby. Thank you to the Tooke family for what they mean to rodeo. Well, speaking of good livestock, as we enter the salute to the four-legged athletes in our game, we know that Orel Zumwalt was known for good bucking horses, but the horse that we honor today, Trails End, was the epitome of what a great bucking horse is made up of. He was big, strong, proud, extremely athletic, and for the cowboys that drew him, he was either triumph or disappointment. And I can tell you today, we are extremely proud to include the great Trails End in our class of 2008.
The horse is Trails End, owned by Orel Zumwalt of Missoula, Montana. He was voted the Horse of the Year by 20 top RCA saddle bronc riders, the highest honor that a rodeo horse can ever get.
At the National Finals Rodeo in Dallas in 1959, the talk was not just about the cowboys. It was about the horse of the year, Trails End.
And this was Walker's night on Trails End, the horse of
For 3 years, one horse dominated the headlines and was named top saddle bronc of the NFR and 1959 Bucking Horse of the Year. Between 1959 and 1971, the 15-hand sorrel gelding appeared at 11 NFRs and bucked off most of the best, including Hall of Fame inductees Casey Tibbs, Larry Mahan, and Guy Weeks. Trails End was ridden only 4 times in 13 tries in 1959, and 3 of those rides ended with first-place wins for the Cowboys talented enough to stay on. Trails End was the pride of the Oral Zumwalt rodeo line. Zumwalt acquired the horse from a sheep herder for a rodeo ticket and $125, but only if the horse bucked. He bucked, and the rest is history. By 1964, Zumwalt had died and his KO ranch was sold. Trails End was purchased by Big Bend Rodeo of Washington for $4,300. To that point, it was the most ever paid for a pro rodeo horse. Trails End is buried at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City. We thank Trails End for so many wonderful rodeo memories and welcome him into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bud King is here to accept.
Well, this thing scares me. We got Trails back in '64 from Oral Zumwalt, as he said, and we're never more proud of a horse than him. He took up with one of our broncs that we had was Trade Winds, and they were inseparable buddies. And Trails was just a gentleman all the time we handled him. He just, if you was to be his friend, he'd be your friend. And I'd like to thank all the people that helped me get him here, like Rhea, and Sammy and Tana, my wife, my daughter-in-law at home that made this possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Bud, and congratulations. You know, the label Specialty Act, special, it obviously comes from that word. Leon and Vicki are very, very special. Vicki worked very, very hard as a young lady up in the Northwest, learned how to handle horses, break horses, learned to trick ride. And she had dreams of the stage, or rodeo stage, like a lot of young girls in that period of her life. Leon is a great steer wrestler. I think his achievements as a specialty performer maybe overshadowed that a bit, but many of us that know him well knew him as a great steer wrestler and a man that, not surprising to anyone, had such abilities with horses. He always had some awful good steer wrestling horses. And a lot of the other guys knew it. You know, in the game that they play in rodeo, it's obviously easy to smile at your audience when things are going well, but it's very difficult to do when things are not going well. Leon and Vicki were so professional that it was very, very difficult to tell the difference. If they were having trouble, it was overshadowed by the fact that they were such great performers. I can tell you that Leon is one of the great trainers, and Vicki would echo those sentiments immediately, and he was so unselfish with his talents, my wife included. He taught her how to bow a horse. He'd take time out from his work, smile at you and say, "Listen to me, and I'll teach you how." And he would do that. Their life together could be a romantic novel, as Leon has said. They've been inseparable for 40 years. To work with them is a privilege. To know them is even a greater reward. Leon and Vicki, I want you to know, you make me so proud to be a part of the Contract Act division of rodeo. So Leon and Vicki, welcome to the class 2008.
They brought smiles across America during 5 decades of entertaining rodeo audiences. The husband and wife team of Leon and Vicki Adams charmed audiences and their animals. With showmanship and horsemanship, they literally made the rodeo arena spotlight glow.
Watch closely, the double jump, Leon Adams and the Flying Aces.
Leon learned to roam and ride in Oklahoma. He was being paid to ride by age 12. With an eye towards a unique act, Leon trained Geronimo and Apache to be the first Brahma bulls to do a Roman riding act. He trained bulls to leap over a Cadillac Eldorado and through hoops of fire.
All he can do is approach it and hope that the bull will decide to do it. And he goes up and over without any hesitation whatsoever.
Vicki learned to trick and Roman ride as she grew up on the Yakima Indian Reservation in Washington State. Her skills and captivating smile grabbed the attention of audiences everywhere. Her dancing horses were a not-to-be-missed act at rodeos and at the national finals. She was a regular fixture at the NFR, carrying the American flag every year from 1991 to 2004.
Now he drops to his knees.
Leon Adams was awarded the Specialty Act of the Year in 1982.
Look at this, ladies and gentlemen.
Vicki received it in 1985, and they were awarded the honor together in 1987 and 1997.
And look at those bulls.
Leon and Vicki have charmed audiences in France, Japan, Finland, Mexico, and Canada. They've been in films and on television around the world. Most of all, Leon and Vicki have helped make rodeo audiences happy. So we smile as we welcome Leon and Vicki Adams into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Looks like I'm going to have to be the first, and it's already been said, everything that's about us that can be said. So I want to thank everyone that's here, everybody here has been part of my life, that I'd say at least 98%, especially the rodeo committees. I've worked every rodeo that's been honored here today. Some of them I've worked several times. And without all of the support help with everybody that's inducted here, and I noticed on that screen there that's a Hall of Famer is helping me into the arena, was Jerry Olson, and he's a Hall of Famer here. And everybody was always willing, from cowboys to anybody that's in the business. I was turned down very few times, because it always had to have help, just like Vicki helping me now. She's always been a big help, and all these years that we've been together, been inseparable. Without her, it's impossible to be here. Hard-working woman, very, very good with horses, and I certainly appreciate her. She's welcomed all my cowboy friends into our home, and prepared for them, and still does, and still will. If anybody comes by to see us, she'll be there to help me do whatever my goals are. I especially thank my family, my cousins, my kids, my grandkids. Well, it's impossible to thank everybody because there's so many that's been involved in our life. I'd like to take a little script from my friend and native Indian Territory in Oklahoma, Mr. Clark McIntyre from Cheyenne, been inducted here, inducted him in their Hall of Fame. He said, well, we come from a Bible Belt down in Oklahoma in the Depression days. Said everybody didn't have nothing to hope for but be a Christian, go to heaven. But like Clark, my family didn't think I'd ever get grown, so they wanted to make sure that I went to heaven, and I didn't have time to think about that, go to this place they called heaven, because I had horses to train, rodeos to go to. So I am the oldest inductee here today, I'm sure, and Howard seemed to think that he's getting old at 75, but throw about 3 or 4 more years on him, and he'll come up here a lot slower probably. So everybody here is my friend and has helped me do the things that I've done. Hadley Barrett, the arena's been set, the committee's furnished electricity from the time you drove up, places to park, prop help. The stage is already set. All I had to do is take my hat off and grin. So I think I had the very easiest part. It's been a great time, a great trip. This is the most wonderful thing of all my 60 years of rodeoing. Started rodeoing when I was real small. I've spent 60 years, so there's not very many people in our business. I hadn't passed through my life, but I'd say the greatest one is this good woman standing here. I've had not one good horse, I've had several good horses, and I'm really appreciative of that. And Clem McSpadden, that they're putting away as I speak, always introduced me, always had to say, said, you ask Leon what time it is, he'll tell you how to make a watch. So I think I'd better close. I'm going to let Vicki say a few words, believe it or not. And
well, I'm not very good in front of the mic. If I had my headdress on and my costumes, well, maybe I could perform a little better. I just want to thank everybody out there, my rodeo family. I want to say that I'm very privileged and honored to have shared my rodeo life and my life with Leon. The very first time I met that man, I was 13 years old, and I was crossing the track in Yakima, Washington, and he was portraying Batman. Oh, this was awesome. This man was flying and kicking dirt everywhere, and he come out through that gate, and all you could see through that mask was that big grin of his. But then when he turned the Roman road away from me, you know how you float 2 horses? Those tights must have been the thing that really got me. Now Robin is cute, you know, and he's sitting right out there, Leon's son, Winford. But his dad was awesome, and I'm so proud to have been a part of his life, a helpmate, and like Hadley said, when we had difficulties in the arena, we tried not to show it, but some of our conversations we had in the arena, they'd be pretty entertaining. One time we were in North Platte, and we were going to walk up my horse on his hind legs. Well, North Platte is famous for tornadoes, rain and hail and whatever. We get it there. And you're looking in the arena while you're performing, and your awning's ripping off your trailer, and the wind's blowing programs across the arena, but the show's got to go on. So mud knee deep, Leon brings up my horse, and he helps me walk my horse. Well, mainly he walks the horse. I'm just a prop to help him keep him straight. Horse steps on my foot. I go down in the mud. He looks back over at me, and he's, what are you doing? Get up here. You know, I'm trying, you know, and I'm trying to catch up. But he went on and bowed him, and I still trying to get across the arena. Another time we were double Roman riding a team of horses, and before we go in, he's always telling me this, that, and everything. And I said, okay, you do your part, I'll do mine. Well, you don't have an attitude like that with Leon. So when we're switching horses at a run, going around the curve, he's supposed to take my reins from me. Well, he yanked the reins from me, and I'm supposed to walk behind him and get his horse, and we switch, you know. Well, I got on tilt, and if I get on tilt an inch, I'm gone. and he just lucked ahead, focused on, and him and the 4 horses left me, and I went down between the 2 of them and rolled up and had some sore ribs after that. So the man behind that smile, there's another side to him that's very, very interesting. So with that, I'll close because I have a story in remembrance of almost all the rodeos out there that we worked in Salinas. My horse bucked me off in front of 10,000 people. He runs out there and he picks me up, and I'm sitting there under my horse looking down at me because it was cool, and I just got through bragging on this horse. And I'm going to give him to my grandchildren because he's so nice. But California climate's cool and long ways out there before you get to work. Got about 3 jumps out there, and I could not believe what was happening. And I did a 360 over his head. Leon comes out there, and he's picking me up, and he says, "You look like you've been in a chicken fight." I said, "You just shut up and get me on my horse or run him off." I said, I hated to get back on and start all over again. So we've had a lot of fun like that in our careers, and I want to thank everybody responsible for getting us here, because without you all, we would not be here. Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Just a minute, come to think of it, I'd like to say one more thing. I appreciate Hadley for bringing up the steer wrestling, because that was one of my life's enjoyments, is steer wrestling. My steer wrestling horses, trained lots of horses, loved to train them steer wrestling horses, had some good horses, took them to the finals several times. My good friend Marty Melvin made possible everything that I ever done with bulldogging horses, and but of course he is a tough guy. You had to dance to his music. So I appreciate him. He barely made it here last night. Enjoyed it. Thank you a lot.
Isn't it too bad that Vicki doesn't speak well at the microphone? Isn't that what she said? Boy, what a wonderful addition to rodeo these two have been. So proud of you. Leon and Vicki Adams, thank you so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, oh, look at that. Did you see that? How about that, Paul, at 37? Try that. Well, as Bobby stated a little earlier, you know, when you walk through the hall and you look at all of the names and all of your heroes that are already in there, and then you realize that suddenly you're going to be a part of this, that is very, very humbling. And I know that that's in the minds and hearts of every one of these people here today. On behalf of all of you in the audience, everyone in Pro Rodeo, we tell you that we're extremely proud of all of the inductees and their families, and I know this is a very special day for you. May I ask you one more time, before we close today, a salute to our class of 2008. Will you do that, please? Friends, and one more time, I'd like to honor all of our inducted committees. We'll be taking a look at the Calgary video once again, and I'll remind you to make sure and join us for lunch. And whatever you do, enjoy your day. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of a great, great ceremony. Good afternoon, everyone.